course, have the good news that the infection rates are going down. People have gone back to their businesses, and that gives us hope that things may get better. Statistics from the Ministry of Health show that everything is getting better, and like I said, that gives us hope that things will soon get better. And of course, we had good news as our athletes returned from the Olympics, and it was a joyful moment at Kololo Independence Grounds as they were hosted by the president at a luncheon, and the president rewarded them in his own way. We know that he gave them brand new cars. He pledged to, of course, have medalists, those that won gold, those that won bronze, that won silver, be put on a monthly stipend of 5 million for gold, 3 million for silver, and probably 2 million for bronze. And that maybe can be good in promoting sport in this country. Many things have happened, yes, in Parliament. This week, Parliament did not sit. The sittings were suspended as the legislators were sent to constituencies to oversee the implementation of the Emyoga funds. And that is after the Parliamentary Task Force revealed gross mismanagement cases in the implementation of the Emyoga funds. And in the studios to discuss some of these issues, I have Honorable Dombo Emmanuel. He is the Director for Information and Publicity at the National Resistance Movement Secretariat. Welcome to the program, Honorable Dombo.
Thank you very much, and good morning, our listeners. It's a pleasure for me to be here after a very long time. I was last year during campaigns, but it's now sometime since, and it's a pleasure that I'm here with you.
Good. Welcome to the program, and we welcome Ms. Jane Nalunga, the Executive Director for Siatini Uganda, and Siatini is an NGO championing issues of trade, tax, and development in Uganda and the East African region. Welcome to the program, Ms. Jane.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for having me here. Good morning, listeners. I'm happy to be here discussing these very important issues.
Well, Ms. Jane Nalunga, and we expect again to be joined by Honorable Gerald Karhanga, the former Member of Parliament for Ntungamo Municipality, a member of the Alliance for National Transformation political party. We kick off the show with Honorable Emmanuel Dombo. Our athletes were rewarded. We have been talking about the funding towards sports development in this country, which many Ugandans think has been inadequate for some time. But from the president's speech, he said he was happy, and probably it looked like he's convinced the 2 gold medals we won and 1 silver and bronze, probably, if I may say it, is enough for now.
Well, I don't want to say it is enough, but I should say first and foremost that congratulations to those athletes who have made every Ugandan very proud, and who made all Ugandans to talk about the same thing in the same direction. This time there was no NUP, there was no NRM. All Ugandans were celebrating together. How I wish that all the issues that come up in the country, we would do the same like we did during these sports, when everybody was on TV, those who could access them. You'd see NUP guy jumping up, fist stamping, and you get an NRM, you get a DP, everybody saying our athletes. This is the Uganda that we want, and we should continue like that. But I want to tell you that sports is part of the activities in the country, and it is subjected to the same conditions that other activities are subjected to. When you go to education, they are crying that money is not enough. When you go to health, others think that the money is not enough even to buy vaccines. When you go to security, you find that many policemen are sleeping in houses which are not complete. So, all these are part of the same economy, and they can only be handled in as much as the economy can manage. And when you are a poor man, in my place there is a proverb that when you have little energy and you have a luggage on the head moving on a journey, and then you feel you want to go and do poo-poo, because you don't have somebody who will help you, you may be forced to go and squat with the luggage on the head, so that after that you can continue with your luggage. So Uganda would wish to do more than he is doing. In the health sector, would wish all the roads to be constructed, would wish all the teachers to be paid well, would wish our doctors to be excellently paid, would wish all the roads to be tarmac, and would wish to live in a modern country. But we are limited because of the economy of the country. We only have a limited basket from which we should pick money to deal with some health issues, deal with the COVID problems, deal with the doctors who must be compensated well. Otherwise, if we took all the money and put it in sports, then all the other sectors of the economy. And you know that all this is based on the nature of security that we have as a country. That is why in Somalia there are no gold medals, because they don't have time to concentrate. Yet there are so many Somalis now who are going to compete for other countries outside Somalia.
Honorable, are you contented with what we are getting from the sports sector, especially in athletics, where we've proved that we are capable of bringing in medals? Especially, I mean, people are actually looking at you, the government you represent, as wanting to reap from where they did not sow.
Who says that? Government has been sowing, and these are the results that government is starting to harvest. Let me tell you that many people would want to say that from the political perspective, especially those that don't support NRM, or those don't support President Museveni in what he does, because they think when the athletes succeed and they win, that glory comes to the government, but also it comes to the ruling party which is presiding over. Now, they are happy that Uganda has won, but they don't want to say that it's because NRM has put a conducive environment for Ugandans to begin winning. Why do you think they were not winning during previous regimes?
They are winning.
They last won during Amini's time.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We last went for the African Cup of Nations during Amini's time. But during this time we have been to the African Cup of Nations twice. Recently we missed narrowly. Right now Express is in Tanzania and they are going to play finals. Now all that is happening because they have a conducive environment which enables the private sector to come in and make a contribution to the development of sports. Because the countries that you see outside there, they are not developing sports because the government is putting in money. In many situations, government comes and develops the infrastructure or the security infrastructure and the roads. But then the private sector, like companies here, look at how much, look at the sports industry. Perhaps MTN and the Airtel, they could be doing a bigger job than what government is doing. Because for them, they have a pecuniary interest. Because when they support sports, also their sales increase. And they make more money.
It's not peculiar. It is outright that they are marketing. They
are marketing. I said pecuniary. So what I want to say is that government will never have enough money to put in one single sector alone, given the various demands. Could be sometime in future when the economy does well and everybody becomes a rich person and everybody is paying taxes. But for now, we haven't done badly. And I want to tell you this gesture which the president did. You are going to see people dying on the track.
Really?
I want to tell you, if somebody who left Uganda going to Tokyo for Olympics on bare feet, running and winning a gold medal, makes you get a brand new Land Cruiser or a brand new pickup, I want to tell you, come. Is it in France next time? I think we're going to be France 2 years from now. In 22, maybe actually next year. You are going to see many athletes coming up because now they know when government promises, it delivers.
Okay, Honorable, we'll get to that promises and pledges of government. Ms. Jane, do you think government is putting in enough so that we actualize and optimize what we should be getting from the sports sector?
Okay, thank you so much. Just to add on to what Honorable Dombo is saying, I think government has done what it can, and maybe from today we should be looking at how can we get more gold medals, what needs to be done. And beyond finances, I think there are areas which government can be able to look at. When you look at the way our education system is organized, it doesn't support sports, you know, because some time back when I was growing up, all schools to be given a license, you had to have a playground, a pitch. Yes, you know, there was PE, you know,
compulsory.
So compulsory, you know, but today you find so many schools don't have pitches, they don't have playgrounds, you know, they have storage buildings, they teach, children go away. So we need to be able to see how we bring back sports, you know, so that it's not a one-off and so that it isn't for an individual, you know, to be able to fight their way out. There are so many talented children out there who can be able to make it, and we need to nurture that. And I remember we used to have competitions, school competitions, sports. Most of our schools no longer do that. So we need to be able to do that. And for me, I think that doesn't need a lot of resources. It's a matter of, you know, policy and changing, you know, our curriculum.
Thank you so much, Jane. And viewers, we had this discussion last week, and we thought we can give it some few minutes before we cross over and get into our topical discussion, which is about our preparation, how and progress to reopening the economy, especially on the education sector. But briefly, let's look at the promises and pledges government has been making, especially into or towards the sports sector. Honorable Dombo, the president pledged to give monthly stipend, but this pledge was again made by the president in 2013, but it was not implemented. Actually, the president made it clear on the platform, on the podium, that his directives were not respected, and our athletes and sportsmen have been fighting and trying to get their monthly stipends, and they were nowhere. How can we be sure that this time, probably, like he said, they will be getting those?
You see, some people who have not been in the government don't know how government works, because a verbal presidential directive at times may be difficult to implement if it is not subsequently followed up with a written directive authorization. Because so many years now from now, when the president is not there, if there is an inquiry on how money was paid, and you say the president directed, and they got the records and there is nothing like that, it becomes an issue. So because of that, therefore, it makes the civil servants or public servants in offices to acknowledge and say, yes, the president directed, but where is the letter? So somebody who handles the presidential directives should have ordinarily followed up to ensure that what the president promised on the microphone must have been put in writing, so that now it becomes a basis for action. Secondly, the people who implement could have been proactive themselves to make a provision in the budget pending, because the president, the budget which is made on behalf of the president. So if it is put in the budget and the president approves that budget in the cabinet, then that alone is an authorization. It wouldn't require, because it has been budgeted for, but at least it may require some documentation. But we could also go a step better by either having a government a government policy written, or even upgrade the policy into a law. To say, so that is something that is written, and when I'm going to compete, I know if I compete like this, this is what I'm working for. I may not target a gold. I may know where my limitations are. But so, we thank the president for what he has done, and most especially for fulfilling the promises. And let me hope that there are not many authorities in the past who may have been promised and could be died without them realizing what the president may have promised. But the handlers of the president's directives and the people in the Ministry of Education should go ahead and formalize, so that the guidance provided by the president is put in some form of policy paper or in some form of law, so that the young people who come up, they will know that once I compete and I get a gold, when I land in Entebbe, I know the next thing I go to Kololo, or I go to State House, or I go here, this is what I'll be due, that will be due for me. Until we do that, all this may be good because the president has offered, but next time somebody wins and there is nobody to pick the money to pay for the vehicles, then it might become an issue again in the eyes of those and becomes a contentious issue.
Are you concerned with what Ms. Jens talked about, the issue of the policy now, that schools and education institutions should have facilities that promote?
That is, I listened to her, and whereas that one sounds a little bit good, we have one challenge. You know, I've told people that God, ever since he stopped creation, no land has increased. The land size in Uganda is the same. Now we must progressively adjust our minds that where it was possible to have a school in Kampala and have a field where children can play, now we are in a modern world where Shimoni is sent out of Kampala in order to create an environment to create jobs for the young people. So those who plan for the country may want to put that as a policy. But time will come when that will not work.
Okay.
When the people will feel everywhere, especially because now look at the population in Kampala. Supposing that one was put with these land hyenas we have here, people who are even encroaching on the fields, you find the boards of management of schools selling school land in order to convert it into commercial because it is more productive that way. So it's a good policy. We can encourage to have perhaps gyms. When you go to the US and other countries have seen, they have put specific policy to encourage schools to have playgrounds, to have that. But whether it can be enforced in Uganda, given the current land needs, especially in the metropolitan areas, it is something that is debatable, and would want to seek the views of the of the professionals to find out how best the two can be reconciled. Because in China, you can overcome the issues of land pressures by building going upwards. Instead of having a single-story building, you can have a 20-story building and put lifts to handle that. You can even have swimming pools upstairs in the buildings. But where you need a football pitch in order to run 100 meters, if you need a football pitch in order to play football and it has a standard size, I don't know how those are going to be integrated in the school policy to ensure that everybody, perhaps my sister, since she's here, I could partake of her wisdom on how best that could be done.
But you see, Honorable Dombo, development is about choices. You decide on what kind of development, and priority what you want. You know, if, for example, today we are cutting down trees and forests, you know, and that's a choice. It's a policy choice. So if we choose to say that at least 3 schools can share one playground, one pitch, it can be done. We gave away Shimon, and we built a hotel, and that's a choice, you know. So we need, for me, as we go forward, especially the post-COVID recovery, those are the choices we need to have. In fact, we need to go back and ask ourselves, what kind of development do we need as a country? Does it mean when we build all those high-rises, that's development or not? You know, but for me, I think everything is possible when you say that's what you do, what you want. I have been to Dakar, Senegal. Senegal is an African country, you know, but the spaces they have, maybe it's because also they are near the ocean, they have tracts and tracts of land where people in the evenings, they do exercises, running, you know. So it's the way we prioritize our issues. But also the issue which I wanted to talk about, the presidential pledge and the fact that he has been making these pledges.
Let me remind you that even it has been, the same issue has been in Parliament. The Committee on Government Assurance has been, talking about the presidential pledges. That's what actually, have not been fulfilled.
That's what I wanted to make a backlog. Yes, that's what I wanted to make a point on. I agree entirely with Honorable Dombo that it's important to put a policy, let there be a law, you know, but it also shows a deeper, because those are symptoms of a problem, and the problem is the lack of institutions and systems. And Honorable Dombo has talked about it, the hyenas, you know, there are hyenas everywhere. There are no systems. We have no institutions at all. The institutions are not working, you know, because if they were working, those things would be working. There would be a clear way of implementing those pledges, but there are no systems, and I think we'll talk about that when we come to Emyooga, you know. And unless we go back and strengthen our systems, strengthen our institutions, that institutions are working, we are going to continue having those challenges of pledges, of no budgets, of supplementary budgets. The president makes a pledge, but there is no budget for it, you know. Then you wonder, where did the money come from? Where they got that money to buy the cars, you know. So we need to be able to put in place working systems and working institutions. Okay. And we'll come to that when we are talking about the Emyooga.
That claim of she mentioned about the systems, that there is lack of systems. Again, she mentions institutions, lack of institutions. I don't know if that's appropriate.
Well, it's a catch-22 because she has just proposed something which is very admirable, which I hadn't thought about, that actually people can share facilities, because for us, we grew up where everybody had his or her own field as a school. And I was thinking that actually they would say, in order to register a school, you must have a field. But that may not be the issue.
Today,
there could be a field which is shared amongst 5 schools or 10 schools, but the time is allocated when the specific school can be sharing a particular, but there is no policy on that one. That one is not yet, she's just making a proposition. Could be it is a good idea which our listeners or those in government may want to take up and say this could be working. The issue of hyenas, those are just people who are thieves. people who have authority and they abuse their offices. Because you are a chairman, board of governors, or chairman, school management committee, and then you decide to sell school land, which was a field, because either you don't have a child in that school, or because to you, you have monetary interests in the benefits immediately outweigh the general good of the school. Or, but if that's the case, then we may need to use our members of parliament to push government to develop a policy. Because right now there is no policy that requires that in order to register a school, you must show how the extracurricular needs of a school are going to be addressed. Because in licensing, they should be looking about the hall for examinations, they look about the size of school for facilities, but that could be integrated as a condition. And that may force, or it may be a requirement for an institution like Kampala City Council, because this is a challenge in towns. Kampala City Council may require each of the divisions, or at official level, Kampala City Council, you may go to Rubaga division, Makinde division, each division acquires land. So that the schools within that division have got access where they can do physical activity.
Honorable, not only schools, but even youth in that locality.
Even young people. But also, as police as a country, when you go to Rwanda, I've been to Rwanda and Burundi, their physical activity regime is so good that they commit a whole day. After 2 o'clock, people get outside their offices to go and exercise. They have what they call Burungi 1C. Here, what they call Burungi 1C in Buganda. For them, they have a day for community work where everybody gets out to go and clean their city. That's personal responsibility. These are some of the things which government perhaps would develop.
Honorable, the question is, why can't that happen here? Why is it not possible?
You know, here everybody is a boss, even those who don't know. And here everybody, the time I was in parliament for 20 years, one of the most disappointing things is to see people who don't know try to struggle to show that they know, even when they don't know. And if you don't know and you don't know that you don't know, then it becomes even disastrous, because you find people arguing for the sake of arguing, and they are not helping anybody. And right now in Uganda, the most important thing, if you go to politics now, is President Museveni. You find parties allying to defeat President Museveni, instead of allying to bring an idea that will work and help the people of Uganda transform and get out of poverty. So politicking is a very huge problem here in the country, but that does not stop people who are in authority to begin putting up policies that should subsequently project this country beyond where we have reached now.
You agree, Honorable, that it is possible?
It is possible, absolutely.
Very possible. Well, finally, on the issue of the pledges, and Ms. Jane had talked about a policy to be formulated.
He's the one who suggested Honorable Dombo about that, yes.
Yes, you see, pledges. First of all, why do people pledge?
Pledges.
Why do people pledge? People pledge because they are poor.
Really?
Because what you have, you just give. When you go for a fundraising and you say I will bring next week, that means at that time you don't have. So pledges are a consequence of poverty. With people pledge, government pledges, the president pledges, because right now he doesn't have. And you promise that when I get, I will do this. Now on the way, competing needs become so many. So, as long as we continue being poor, people will continue making pledges.
The president will continue making pledges.
Even government, the president, you cannot run out of pledges. Right now, there is a whole committee
on pledges,
of parliament, headed by Honorable Mose. Her work is to come and look at the pledges of government, because government wishes something to be done, but because it has little energy, little resources, then they keep promising.
Maybe that is where we'll start from when we return from the break, and Ms. Jane Alunga will tell us whether we really lack to that extent that we commit ourselves but we do not deliver. The program is The Dialogue. My name is Simapolo, and we'll go for a short break. When we return, we'll look briefly at the issue of prejudice and go straight into our main discussion for this morning. The economy. How can we open the economy? How can the education sector operate at this point when actually there is a big risk of COVID-19? We're going to a break and we'll be returning shortly. The lockdown, and of course what we know is that some businesses have opened, but again some sectors of the economy are still closed. We can talk about the education sector, which is still closed, and from what government is saying, we are not so sure when the schools will reopen for learners to go back to classes. Government says schools will open after 358,000 teachers have gotten their doses of COVID vaccines. Then, of course, there is also a program to vaccinate learners 12 years and above, and that keeps us shrouded in uncertainty of when the education sector will fully reopen again. Ms. Jean Nalunga, I think that's where you have to start. You tell us, how well are we prepared to reopen the economy? Some sectors are opened, some others are still closed. I don't know what your assessment is as far as fully reopening of the economy is concerned, if it is possible anyway.
Thank you so much, Apollo. The issue of reopening the economy, for me, I think it's almost open. I see in the streets, you go in the small towns, people are moving, you know. It's just that officially the schools are not yet open, but unofficially you find even some children are learning somewhere illegally. You know, so I think it's good that at least we have some benchmarks that when so many teachers are vaccinated, then they can be able to open. But again, also the vaccines are not there. I see people scrambling for the few doses which came. You know, so for me, I think we need to maybe to devise other ways to open this economy, because the economy seriously is ailing. It's ailing, it's on its knees, you know. So we are discussing with some friends that we have Covidex. If we believe in Covidex, why don't we use it, you know? And somebody was saying, you know, when you look at even what we call Covidex, we call it a concoction. You know, I was reading some papers and say this concoction, you know. So let us see how we can be able to reopen the economy, because the economy is battered, the economy is ailing. And when we are looking at the economy, we shouldn't look at just the impact of COVID on the economy, because our economy hasn't been working very well, you know. That's why we have very high unemployment. That's why we have a persistent trade deficit, you know, because we are exporting the cotton, the coffee, the raw materials, you know. So we have a high fiscal deficit. So we need to look at the economy and look at how do we revive the economy. And in reviving the economy, we need to look at the immediately what government is doing today, the MIOGA, that we can be able to say immediately injecting some recovery funds in the MSMEs. But you have seen what the MIOGA, how they have been handled. We have other funds. The other day, in fact, the whole last week, we have been in and out of Ministry of Finance. We have been part of that committee, part of that debate on how MSMEs can be able to access, you know, some resources for them to be able to revive their businesses. So, in the immediate term, we need to vaccinate. So government has to get the vaccines. We need to reopen the economy. the MSMEs need to get access to some affordable and immediate, cash to inject in their businesses. That needs also to be.
How far have we gone with that? I think that is important.
Yeah, government has been borrowing resources. They first borrowed and put resources in UDB, But of course, the resources in UDB, not so many MSMEs could access that money. The conditionalities were so difficult, because now the debate is how, what should be the interest rate? Where should that money be accessed from? Do we take that money to the private banks or do we take it to Post Bank? If it goes to Post Bank, what's the interest rate? So some of those are the issues which are being discussed. But again, to go back to the issue I raised, that Uganda's challenge is the lack of institutions. Because if we had institutions, today government shouldn't be discussing issues around where to put the money. But the money is there because government has borrowed the money. But even where to channel it becomes a problem. And the issue is systems and institutions. And I think those are issues which we need to look at. In the law, we need to look at measures in immediate, medium, and long term. In the medium term, we need to reorganize the entire economy. Maybe I will talk about that. How can we reorganize our economy so that we increase incomes at household level, but also at national level? Because when you look at our national development plan, it talks about increasing incomes at household level. But how do we increase incomes at national level? Because the national level government is as impoverished as the debt burden has shot through the roof, and we need to consider that. So for me, I think this debate, the debate around the recovery of the economy shouldn't be left just to these debates here. They should go Honorable Dombo. Those are issues which you need to discuss in Parliament. How do we revive the economy? Because reviving the economy, we need mutually supporting policies.
I think Honorable Dombo will come in, but again, the issue of education institutions. Do you think, you said there are short-term interventions, the immediate, you talked about the immediate interventions. Does it fall into those immediate?
It does. The education sector does. Because if government can be able to put measures within schools, because for me, I didn't even support the closure of schools. Because you see, when the schools were closed, especially the boarding schools, when they were closed, these children went back to the villages and they took the COVID there, Yet in the schools, it would have been manageable. So we need to sit and say, when we open schools, what needs to be done? Because COVID is not going to end today or tomorrow. Every day there is another variant. The Delta variant is here. Another day we are going to get the Nile variant. What do we do about that? So we need to plan to live with the COVID and see how we manage.
From what government is saying, that we should first have teachers vaccinated and to the rate of 65%, and again have learners immunized. Those learners 12 years and above should also first get immunized. Do you find it viable in any way?
Nobody is quarreling with that. But where are the vaccines? Where? If they are there, I don't think any teacher would say no. I was in Mbole, people were saying no, we are not vaccinating, and so many people were there that no, we are not vaccinating first time You know, we are vaccinating those people who got the second dose. But even the people who had got the second dose were just lining up. So there is no quarrel about vaccinating, but where are the vaccines?
Where are the vaccines? Honorable Dombo, you can weigh in from there. Are we ready? And tell us where we are right now.
First of all, you must know that we are dealing with an issue we don't have experience about. And there is no country that has experience. Because if it was the case, then America, which has all the facilities, would not have lost over 60,000. Is it 60,000?
Yeah, there are
600,000 people. They wouldn't have lost those number of people. They are developed, the economy is bigger, they are our donors, they have infrastructure, but one time they ran out of oxygen. There has been a big debate between the President Trump then, and Cuomo, and the doctor, the scientists, on what should be done. And for us, the information we have, either we learn through Ebola, or we also depend on the same social media or TV, because of what people are doing in the developed countries. So, we are learning as we build. That's one of the weaknesses that we have. And nobody can, like my sister is talking about not closing schools. Nobody knew that the schools children were sick. Actually, when the government disbanded the schools for children to go home, they were removing concentrations of people so that they don't facilitate infection. But they didn't know that actually the student had already been infected and the teachers were keeping quiet. Perhaps if this information had been given the government that actually many schools were already hotspots, could be they could have avoided doing that. But teachers were fearing to tell the truth because they didn't want the schools closed since they had just opened up, and the school system has a very big economy. It's a very big economy. Me, I sell posho. I'm a farmer. And I sell more posho. All the prices for my maize, which I cultivate, becomes better when the school system is operating. But right now, the teachers, and many teachers are not earning salary, the private ones. Many schools are at the risk of being sold because they got loans. And to me, who was selling my maize, nobody is buying my maize because of the circumstances that have come. So, it is a litany of problems within the economy. Look at the churches. For us in the Church of Uganda, we're already having a challenge with the dates which you have with the Equity Bank because of the building that has not been finished. It could have been easier to mobilize this money if the churches, if the people were going to church. So the church economy has itself been affected because the churches have not been opened. It is only the churches that have access to social media, access to media like the Salt TV and Salt platforms, churches that have the capacity to do that. But there are many churches in the rural areas where the leaders of those churches are themselves suffering. When you come to the schools or the economy, look at the artists. The art and crafts and the art industry is a very huge industry here in the country. And many tourists were coming. Look at the hotel sector. People are in challenges and in problems. People don't have jobs. People are not earning. So because all those have collapsed, even the economy is not collecting enough tax. And yet the needs of government have increased. Now the people who are jobless, everybody wants support from government, a government which is not collecting taxes. Government etuyambe, government etuyambe. That's what everybody cries. So the government also now is crying, perhaps the international community, mutuyambe, mutuyambe. So because of that, government must take choices. What are the choices that must be done? The first one is to save the people. And where they work so well, they say, let's close, let the wave go down, and we are alive. Because the biggest gift God gave humanity is life. Without life, then you can't do the others. Now that people have saved life, we can come here and talk Now those who haven't died in the ministry and in government should help us to understand. The president came up with a program of vaccinating children above 12 years. That is the ultimate. But how feasible is it?
Oh, yeah?
Given the economy of vaccines. Yesterday I was at the directorate of at the National Medical Stores. The Right Honourable Richard Todwong and a number of members of parliament went to evaluate the situation to find out what is it that could be done to improve the system. And the director told us, he said, there is no country, if they wanted, that can go to the manufacturers straight and buy any vaccine. They said, ask the president. The president tried to get a phone and ring that institute of
Serum Institute
of something
of India.
They failed. The president failed. You must buy the medicine from the middle income people. And you know the effect of that? Serum Institute was selling that vaccine at around about $5. If you don't have $18, take it or leave it. So the whole economy now has come into these high sorts of these hyenas as a very big challenge. Yesterday I heard that China has donated about 800 billion doses to the world. I don't know whether under the COVAX system, whether under the direct sale, I don't know under what system that one is going to happen. So there is a huge problem. But to me, that's why I admire President Museveni. How come Africa developed as we are, and given the time we took independence, that up to now there is no African country that can produce vaccines? We have been training doctors all along. So what are the doctors we have been training for?
That's leadership.
How can Cuba, a small island state, which is a result of some refugees who are taken there, not refugees but slaves who are taken there so many years ago, come to build their scientific capacity to make vaccines because they have the Abdala vaccine.
Yeah.
And Africa, we are making mortars, we are making war equipment, but we cannot make vaccines to save the people. And the same people we fought against in order to get liberated for colonialism, they are the same people we go to beg.
But we are not liberated. That's why we are not liberated.
See, to beg, they say, can you help us to give us vaccines? That is a fundamental issue that African countries, if it is research funds, let IU mobilize research funds together, because if we don't survive together, we shall get sunk together. So,
in the immediate, Honorable.
So in the immediate is that let us save lives so that the third wave doesn't come.
At least we have done that, Honorable.
Because the third wave, nobody knows if the third wave comes. In the immediate, therefore, the SOPs must be observed as much as possible, even if it means enforcement. That one must be done. The second one is that in order to make the business people survive, government should do enhance like the SME program where they are coming up with 100 billion shillings, and I think the private banks are also putting 100 billion in order to make it accessible at favorable rates, not going beyond 10%. That one, the prepayment period should be stretched because it may require 10 years in order the effects of COVID to be combed out of the economy, if ever they totally get erased. That is very important. But also, to continuously build the internal capacity to see whether we can sustainably look at the abilities that we can do. For the schools, the president talked of the 12-year and the teachers. I think if we can get the vaccines to vaccinate the teachers, the 12-year always let it be progressive and incremental. Because we cannot have an industry totally locked out for a very long period of time. Even when the vaccines, you don't know when they are going to be available. But if we can say vaccinate about 80 to 90% of the teachers, the rest can progressively be handled and the students can be progressively be immunized as we work out the systems. But this should be complemented by the vulnerable people in the community also being vaccinated, because the president rightly observed the other day when he was addressing, he was asking, what if the children go to school, those in the schools, they go to school and come back to parents, they go to school and come back to people where we have underlying causes, because I may be hypertensive, I may be HIV positive, I may be having diabetes, but the children keep going to school where they can pick the infection and bring it home to the parents. So as we vaccinate the teachers, vaccinate the frontline workers, vaccinate with the people with the underlying causes, once we get good numbers in those areas, the children can progressively be vaccinated, because I hear their immunity rate is slightly higher than most other people in the community.
Honorable, as we speak, there are calls that there are calls in the public that the schools should immediately open. Do you think it's that is possible or sustainable?
But that's what is the same calls they did last time. The schools were open, and what happened? We closed them. Because
we are in a puzzle. We don't have vaccines. You underlined it. We don't have these politics around the vaccine, and that may not change in the immediate term. What can we do? Should we keep the schools closed? Really?
No, once we have the teachers vaccinated, then we can open the schools.
Okay.
Because one, the teachers are themselves vulnerable, because they meet many children. And if the immune system is not boosted, then you can have many teachers dying. In this recent wave, a number of teachers died.
Okay.
Around here, during the examination centers, I think during the marking of the exams, many teachers got infected during those centers, and a number of them have died. From very important schools in the country, you had Nabisunsa, lost teachers, Kisubi, lost teachers, I think Kibuli, and a number of schools that may not have had the opportunity to be mentioned in the media. So the risk is there and is high. Teachers can die. Children can get resistance. So let us immunize the teachers and protect them. Let us immunize the people with underlying causes and advanced age, so that the parents are protected. So when the children go to school and come back, then the others cannot be affected. Then also enhance surveillance and ask the teachers to report should there be something unusual in their respective communities. But this time, the teachers kept quiet, they kept it secret, and unfortunately, it ran out of their control.
Ms. Jane, good enough in the ongoing immunization campaign, teachers and frontline health workers are a priority. Do you think it is possible now to wrap up, to ramp up the program and have as many teachers as possible vaccinated, so that we get schools reopening soonest, in the soonest?
Teachers are saying not to being vaccinated. The issue is the vaccines, if they are available. But what I want to say is the positive, giving people hope. I go to villages, people producing, people now harvesting maize, people planting. Life is going on out there. And I think we need to, while we are looking at the dilemma of getting COVID vaccines, we need also to look at the economy. I see, for example, Kenya recently they signed an agreement, the Kenya government signed an agreement with the German government to supply 100 metric tons of Mukombero. Mukombero is what's Murondo.
Okay.
Murondo. You know, so there is a silver lining when it comes to COVID, because most developed countries are looking for health products, and Murondo is one of them. And what Kenya government has done is to mandate the Ministry of their Ministry of Agriculture to make sure that farmers are producing murondo. So in Western Kenya here, they are producing mukombero, 100 metric tons of that. Before COVID,
the name is strange, mukombero.
Before COVID, Kenya had already signed an agreement with China to send, I don't know how many metric tons of avocado, to China. So what I'm saying is that while we are looking for the vaccines, let us revive the economy. We need to buy, to sell, we need to trade, because even if you give all these stimulus packages, give money to the MSMEs, when the businesses are not moving, they won't pay back. So for me, what I'm saying, the economy is moving. Out there, people are eating, people are drinking. We need to be able, and that's the rethink I'm talking about. Today, the Ministry of Trade is seriously negotiating a continental free trade area, that the entire Africa is going to be one market, is going to be a market. But what are we sending to that market? So for me, what I'm saying is we shouldn't be blinded by the COVID. Let us work on COVID, getting the vaccines, but on the other hand, we need to survive. Let us work on the economy. I was here the last time when I was here. I talked about the Rwanda border. Our government should ensure that we open up that Rwanda border. Let people, now people are in Western Uganda, even a lot of in Uganda, people have produced Irish potatoes. Rwanda needs Irish potatoes. It's a big market there. So let us rethink. Let us make the East African market work. Get it to. And your maize if schools are not taking that maize, Kenya can take it. But there are issues of standards which we have. So Apollo. My point is, let us, we are firefighting, but we need to look at the other side, that after firefighting, what next? So let us also put more brains on reviving this economy, and let us learn from others. Things are happening in Tanzania, in Kenya. New markets, new products are coming on board. Markets are being negotiated, So let us be aware of that.
All right, Ms. Jane, that is the question I would want to hear Honorable Dombo respond to. He talked about the issue of vaccines being sold at a higher cost just because we have middlemen wanting some, maybe to get a portion of it, of that money. Some calls are coming out urging government to do everything it can. If it means buying COVID vaccines at higher price, let them do it. Vaccinate teachers, vaccinate those priority groups so that the economy opens up. What is your view on that? Is it possible?
Everything is possible. Everything is possible.
I
give you an example.
Do we have the money?
But we have been borrowing. Where are we putting the money? It's an issue of priority. We have just borrowed $1 billion from the IMF. Where is it going? So if we can be able to prioritize health, then we can be able to put that money there. The example of Israel. Israel was the first country to vaccinate the entire population. They bought, in fact they booked at a very high cost. But they said the cost of a lockdown is higher than paying that high cost of vaccine. And they never had a lockdown. So it's a matter of priority. And government, our leaders here sitting down to do what they are supposed to do.
Isn't it possible to swallow that bitter pill, spend a lot, revive the economy?
You see, in situations like this, where you are going to buy vaccines and you're not buying it from the manufacturers, and you're buying from middlemen, the possibilities of buying water instead of the vaccine also become higher. So it's a difficult situation. Because if a medical person in Uganda can get vaccines, I mean empty vaccine bottles, and pump their water and begin vaccinating people with water, then you know that even on the international community, the possibility of people buying air, calling it vaccine and losing money becomes very higher. That's why there must be a recognized international system. Even when we must buy either through the COVAX, either through the African Union, either through any known mechanism of bilateral country to country, so that we cushion governments from our own people who buy can easily be tempted by negotiating with a middleman for a kickback, yet you are dealing with a person who doesn't have the vaccine or who is going to sell you a fake vaccine. So, given those risks, for us we call on the international community to ensure that they put a supply mechanism that will help countries. You know, this person who sold us water here, we did not have capacity even to tell whether it was water or not. We had to send it to the Serum Institute to confirm whether this was vaccine, and when they brought back a report, I don't know whether our government chemist laboratories in Wandegear have enough scientific capacity to be able to tell the vaccines that we buy from middlemen whether it is a true vaccine or it may be water. In circumstances like those, therefore, we shall rely on the international system like the COVAX system or the African mechanism, which has been put in place also to ensure. But because of that, therefore, it increases demand, it increases the time taken, but also even the internal capacity. Because people are just talking about vaccines. If you are going to buy a vaccine like the one from the US, is it called Pfizer?
Pfizer.
The vaccines like the AstraZeneca can be held and stored between 2 and 8 degrees centigrade. But Pfizer is minus 50 to minus 80. And there are not many fridges or capacity within the African continent able to handle that vaccine. You can handle it at storage. How about the administration of the vaccine when it goes back to the rural areas? It also comes with administrative challenges. So even when the vaccines are going to be available, do we have enough mechanism to ensure their safety, their storage, and their administration, and the training of the people in order to administer it well? Their challenges are many. That's why government, you see, perhaps could have informed why.
What options have we left now? We only have 5 minutes. What are those options probably?
The options is push harder for a vaccine.
Okay.
Then the second one is to continue progressively building on the internal capacity. When you look at what has happened in Africa, somebody should do a research and tell us that irrespective of our poverty, why is it that the number of deaths have been fewer? Yeah. Irrespective of the supply chain being very poor, no oxygen, no facilities, bed capacity, rudimentary training, but the number of deaths have been good, have been less than the developed countries. Could there be something beyond? Could there be things in our concoctions? Because in Africa right now, many people, steaming. I was going to say smoking. Steaming. People steam themselves. What are the issues integrated?
Okay.
Because God, when He created mankind, He created plants and He put medicinal values in them. Let the people pray for Ugandans and work hard to begin finding the medicinal values in the local remedies that we have. And let us not call them concoctions. Yeah. Let us modify the name and call them the names that they should be.
Honorable, in just 30 seconds, why do you think, anyway, if I may ask, some people are saying, why don't we go the Tanzania way? Tanzania has survived. without a lockdown, and they're not dying, maybe as we may think.
My friend, I don't know whether they are not dying, because one thing they have succeeded in doing was to hide their statistics initially. But when President Suluhu, Samia Suluhu took over, she came up with a very robust COVID management intervention system, which she announced and even set up a committee. What that committee is doing, I don't know, because I don't have the data with me, but I know countries are dying. I mean, people are dying in various countries. We don't have the statistics because Tanzania stopped giving their statistics number of.
Yeah, they started again.
If they have started, then we need to find out how many have died and what else they have done. But one of the things which President Suluhu, I mean the predecessor, the late Magufuli, did and emphasized was the steaming process, because he said there are African remedies that can work, and many people have been steaming. There are many people in Uganda here who have been saved through steaming.
Sure.
And we could all as well, now the missing link is their scientific knowledge of which plants or which mixtures can help us survive. But the Ugandan system has saved us more, and has worked best. And on the international community, President Museveni of Uganda is performing exceedingly well than many African countries.
Ms. Jane, in just 1.5 minutes, what could be your final recommendations as we probably move ahead?
Thank you, Apollo. As we move ahead, we need to walk on two legs. We have two legs, we need to walk on them. We need to walk on the leg of the vaccine, COVID and all that, you know. We need to look at how do we get as many people as possible vaccinated. We need to see whether we can continue with our steaming and our traditional medicine. But on the other leg, let us look at the economy, how to resuscitate the economy, how to be able to produce more, how to create jobs. We are not doing it. We are not. All the brains are on COVID. And what we are looking at when it comes to the economy, how to give the recovery fund to MSMEs, which is okay as a firefighting mechanism, as an immediate solution. But beyond that, how do we revive the economy?
Okay. All right. I think we agree, Madam Jane, that education institutions may remain closed for some time, from what we have all discussed here. Looks like.
And the time will depend, you know, it can be tomorrow or the other day if we get the vaccine. But you know, for me, what also worried me, that when we get, because in this country, when things come in, even shoes, you know, there is a body which says these shoes are substandard, you know. But for vaccines,
we may not have that capacity.
I don't think we should have that capacity.
Your last word, we have to close the show in just 1 minute.
The first thing is that we must be alive. Let people continue practicing the standard operating procedures. Let government facilitate and enhance the SMEs access some funds so that people don't lose their properties in the banks, so that people can have access working capital, so that the regulatory framework to enable people to get back on their feet and begin producing. Then the politicians, let us talk with one voice, because a pandemic is not political. A pandemic is a problem that all of us face. Let's get into it together. Let us focus the message so that we don't mislead the people into making wrong mistakes or making wrong choices.
All right, we've come to an end of this morning's episode of the dialogue. My name is Tim Apollo, and it's been a pleasure hosting Honorable Emmanuel Dombo.
It's a pleasure too, and let me hope we shall get time to come back again.
It's a pleasure hosting you, Ms. Jane Nalunga.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the space
Well,
and
I
the
must apologize
conversation.
to our viewers that we did not get in touch with Honorable Gerald Kalanga. He popped in a bit late, and probably we'll have him next time. We have advertised that we'll be with him here, but because of some issues and challenges, he could not make it on time. And I must wish you a good weekend, good afternoon, and a splendid weekend.
Soul Television.